In the past few years, Brazil's economy has disappointed. Poverty in Brazil is almost visually represented by the various favelas in the slums in the country, metropolitan areas, and remote up-country regions that suffer with economic underdevelopment and below par standards of living. An attempt to mitigate these problems in the Fund Zero program launched by the then President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva in 2003. Also, Brazil has serious problems with crime, with only 23.8 homicides. Police brutality and corruption are widespread. In response, the Brazilian government established the National Public Security Force.
Warned of the seriousness of the matter, Dilma Rousseff assumed the responsibility of organizing the accounts and leading the country to the greatness. Her political party wasn't okay with her decisions, so they named Joaquim Levy as the economy minister.
The Partido dos Trabalhadores government has constantly manipulated its grassroots, with a view to imposing that Washington Consensus describes as a strong policy framework. Another factor is that most Brazilians spend all their money paying their debts of credit cards, and most of that money goes to the bank. This makes the government own much more money than it is supposed, and the corruption increases. President Dilma Rousseff was removed from her charge as President of Brazil for a period of 180 days, with an impeachment that she violated the country's law on fiscal responsibility. Rousseff is not the only politician in trouble. More than half members of the Congress are currently under investigation as part of a massive corruption scandal linked to the state oil and gas firm Petrobras. One of the main problems facing the Brazilian economy is the lack of the private sector investment, which are inhibited against the delicate political situation. Explained by the chief economist for Latin America at the World Bank, that private investors tend to wait to see what happens with the political environment before investing. That delays the recovery in Brazil and also makes it more difficult to the conversation on fiscal policies to be taken to correct the imbalances. Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay are the countries that are more exposed to the problems generated in Brazil. In all the following factors, trading goods, tourism, FDI, investments, portfolio, banking, etc., these are three countries stand out for these relations with Brazil. The evolution of the situation since the beginning. Social. A social problem is when different difficulties appear in a specific group or area that are affected by the community that live there. The social problems can be many, but the most common in Brazil have been increasing largely over the years. Between 1980 and 2010, there were 1 million homicides, and all of these rises, it is because the inequality that exists in this place. Also, a fact that you must know is that in 2007, there were reported more deaths of violence in Brazil than in Iraq and Colombia. According to the page in 2007, more than 100 people died that day. Nowadays, the violence in Brazil has increased, for the reason being arrival of the Olympic Games. The things in there proved a little bad. So the problem increases because all the world was watching them. Also, the economic problems increased and the society started to be unhappy. All the money of the Brazil government was used in the organization of the Olympics. The people started having one of the most catastrophic situations. Also, some sources said that the government started
Not
destroying
everything in Brazil is bad. We can see the good heart of these two men who get dressed like a famous superheroes, Batman, Flash, and Spider-Man. And they went to wash the windows of a hospital because it was a manner to celebrate the kids for their special day. Since in Brazil Children's Day is this month, in the news we can see some reactions that the kids had, where it looks how happy and surprised they were. This is a good way to help in the treatments that can be painful. The statistics on the Brazilian labor market show that an increasing number of workers in the country are in position below their needs, or have withdrawn from the market due to the lack of opportunities amid the ongoing economic recession.
In the first news, we have a very interesting article about the corruption in the politician parties in Brazil. It looks like a lot of politicians' parties of the place have had several problems because of the continuous fight against the corruption. The most affected of all is the PT. They lose more than a half of the people that support them. We think that it's very important to mention that the president of this political party was Dilma Rousseff, who was accused of corruption and found guilty. This news generated a lot of scandal, not only in Brazil, also around the world a couple of months ago. We think that there's a principal reason of the crisis that is having the PT. We think that it is important a good news because now Brazil continues searching for putting a stop in the corruption that and the people also help with that. In this news, they talk about people that put crosses in front of the University of Law that is in Sao Paulo to commemorate the prisoners that died in the Carandiru Penitentiary Massacre. The relatives of more than 100 prisoners who died during the riot 1992 in jail of the Brazilian city of Sao Paulo are appealing after the court threw them out convictions against 74 police officers. The reason of the person in charge thought that the case was not strong enough against the officers who put down the riot in the notorious Carandiru jail and that the evidence was not conclusive. The police officers weren't injured, but a lot of prisoners died. The police officers were convicted of having executed prisoners in cold blood. Also, their defense had argued they had only fought back during the violent uprising. Prosecutors have argued that many of the prisoners were found naked and killed after they had been disarmed and overpowered. The police officers received the sentences of between 48 and 624 years in prison. The leader of the operation, Colonel Ubiratan Guimarães, was sentenced to 632 years in prison, but was acquitted to appeal in 2006. He was murdered the same year in suspicious circumstances. Brazil is a dangerous place, even for its own people, especially the politicians. They are a great objective for anyone who wants money. The people who have enough money ask for the protection of the militia. The violence against the public candidates in Rio de Janeiro was gone far enough. The city council candidate Marcos Vieira Sousa was killed by gunmen. Also, the past week, 2 murders and an attempt took place, and the perpetrators weren't captured. Brazil's security force needs to work on this, because if they don't do something to stop it, the whole country will be entering a total madness and despair. Everyone will be always with the fear of being killed and with one and simple dummy thing that all collapse in chaos and it will be a lot of innocent victims. We know that this will sound crazy, but Brazil will be like a war zone. They will hear a strange sound and everyone will take out their guns to prepare to defend themselves. They will act like paranoid people. Unfortunately, maybe most of the population in this country are acting like this nowadays. The conflict that we can appreciate in Brazil is a social and also economic and political problem, because the economy is failing. Also, it's social because the people totally chaos, and political one is because all the bad government and corruption is in there.
Nowadays, in Brazil, they are facing a corruption case in which the ex-president Luis Inácio was accused of stealing more than $1 million. A judgment is taking place against him. His lawyer said that all of these accusations are part of a complot to make them look bad in front of the society. During the last days, the government of Brazil is making an effort to find the web of corruption that is still there. The main characters of this web are very important parts of the government. Another case of corruption that is presented is the one that talks about the minister Guido Montega. He was arrested because he committed fraud with Petrobras, that is an important company that produces gasoline.